like I haven't seen Kyle in a long time.
You haven't. It's been like a month since you've seen him.
This 3 split screen makes Kyle look like a giant, so I'm gonna switch back to this for those.
I was kind of in on that. No, this is great. This is the first time I've been the tallest person in a room ever.
Like the Big Show.
I'm not even saw him with better posture.
There we go.
There you go. All right, we're settled in here. He's the curator of vibes over at 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. Of course, he's the host of Niners. He's the host of Candlestick Chronicles and a writer at Niners Wire. And he is covering the Golden State Warriors as well as anybody else on the planet. So your immediate reaction after game number 1 is what?
Series is over, guys.
Yeah.
What it is.
Right there.
No, it was kind of shocking, honestly. But when I was watching with my folks, and the Warriors went up 15 with like a minute and a half left in the third quarter, and I said they need to stretch this to like 20. They need to get this to 20 plus and just kind of get the Celtics out of the game now. Mm-hmm. But it ends at 12. They were up 12 going into the fourth, and it's just like, man, against the number 1 defense in the league, when you know to open the fourth quarter, you're not going to have Steph on the floor. The offense is going to be running through Jordan Poole, who was not very effective. It's Andre Iguodala's on the floor, Draymond Green's on the floor. Those are 2 offensive 0 to negatives. It was going to be tough to hold on to a 12-point lead, and sure enough, Boston storms back and then lock down Golden State on the other end. The thing that jumps out to me is Boston hit 51% of their threes, which is bananas. And everybody keeps saying, and this is a big thing on 95.7 today, was everybody saying, well, Boston's not going to hit 51% of their threes again. Well, yeah, duh. Like that's not hot analysis. The problem for me was it was a lot of open looks. Boston had a lot of, and so, okay, maybe they won't hit 51%, but are they going to shoot 43, 44, 45% for the series? Maybe. If you're going to let Al Horford stand there and shoot practice threes, he's going to hit them. If you let Derek White and Marcus Smart shoot practice threes, they're going to hit them. So that was the bigger concern to me. And yeah, Golden State's got some adjustments to make, because I don't think last night was some weird anomaly. Like, it was Boston playing great defense and then hitting open shots.
It's a great point that you made there, Kyle, because I made the same one. So that's why it's so great. But
perfect.
But to that point, I felt like with Dallas, it's not necessarily like they just bottled Dallas up. Dallas got a lot of open looks, and they're just missing their threes. They couldn't hit the side of the barn, as my grandmother would say. And they have that defensive strategy, and they seem to bring that in with Boston so far. And if that's the way they're going to continue to go, I don't think Boston is going to shoot as bad as Dallas did from 3. And they're not like one-trick ponies. Like, they'll take the open 3, but if you leave them room, they'll attack. We saw Marcus Smart do it a couple of times last night. Jaylen Brown did it as well. Like, they'll attack with that space that you give them. And not only will they gain confidence from making, maybe some twos or some alley-oops or anything like that, but they get an opportunity to start to feel good about themselves from beyond the arc. So it's a dangerous game if they want to have that same strategy with this particular Boston team.
Well, and the other issue is, like, I think Golden State will figure it out a little bit on the defensive end, but offensively, I don't know what they can do differently. They got a big night from Steph, but like Jordan Poole looked unplayable, and maybe he'll figure it out a little bit. But if you can't dribble around Peyton Pritchard, like you're gonna have a little bit of a problem. Draymond Green, I mean, there's been calls for him to be more aggressive offensively, but like to a point. Like, trying to go up and over Robert Williams is not your bag. Like, you got to know that.
Is he even good offensively?
Draymond?
Yeah.
No, he's bad. He's actively bad. But
why do you want him to be aggressive? Or
because there's times where he gets downhill and there's Maxi Kleber standing under the rim and he won't go up with it.
Right.
And he throws it into traffic. And it's like, dude, take the layup.
Yeah, you got to take the shot. Like, even if you miss, you have to take the shot.
but there's limits to that. He started 0 for 5 last night, and he kept going up into traffic, and it just wasn't like the kind of looks you want Draymond taking. So
was jump shooting a lot too.
Yeah, a couple jumpers in there. Like Clay can't create off the dribble at all against Tatum or Smart or Brown. It's just they got some problems to work out on both ends, and I just don't know if they're gonna have enough time to do it. But we'll see in game 2 how things go.
And I mean, I would think too, as a Warriors fan, you're looking at it like, man, there's a lot of things the Warriors have to correct. But if you're Boston, you're not like, whoo, okay, we've got this figured out. Like Boston, you talked about them being down by 15, getting hot there in the fourth quarter, doing the things that they did. Tatum was offensively, Tatum was distributing the ball fantastically, but you're going to need more from him offensively. I think he finished like 3 of 17 or something along those lines. Boston has a lot it has to correct too. I don't know who feels better headed into, film watching, knowing, okay, we've got enough here to correct that's going to put us in a good position. Draymond said yesterday we dominated for 42 minutes, which I know, eye roll inducing.
What game was he watching?
That might have been the problem, is he was watching and not playing. Right. But
I don't know. The fact that like Draymond, I wish I could remember who said this, but that post game quote from Draymond, where he's like, "We dominated 42 minutes, and Smart and White and Horford went 15 of 23 from 3. That tells you all you need to know." Like that sounds like Golden State's game plan is, we're gonna let him do it again, which is nuts. You can't if Golden State plays the exact same game they played, forget like what Boston does. If Golden State plays the exact same game, they're not going to win a lot of games. They're not.
There's nothing for us to be worried about because we really dominated the game for 42 minutes. And if we just do the same things and make our shots, then I'm telling you, we will win this series in 5. They are who we thought they were.
Wow. You've been working on that? It's a good Draymond. It's a really good Draymond. You have to fit in there that people don't know what they're watching.
Oh yes, that's y'all don't watch enough basketball. Like you've gotta fit that in there somewhere.
I don't know, man.
One thing that I think that the Warriors can do, and I think they will do it, I think they should do it, we'll see if they will or not, is they may have to extend the minutes that they play for Steph Curry. Because another thing about one that I didn't like is I didn't like the minutes with him off the floor. And, what Steve Kerr likes to wait 6 minutes into the fourth quarter, maybe that turns into 9 minutes left to go in the first quarter. And
he was like sitting him at the end of quarters. Mm-hmm. It was a weird rotation pattern. Like, it's the finals, bro. Like, Steph's got to play like 42 minutes. Like, give him the whole first quarter, give him what's 42 minus 48, that's 3, and then check him back in at 9 of the second and the fourth.
Yeah.
Like that's what's got to happen.
Now, the concern with that, Kyle, is against a team like Boston, who's physical, that keeps pressure on him all game long, essentially, with whether it's Tatum, Smart, whoever's guarding him at the time, switches, traps, all this other stuff, you may wear him down. I think that's the risk you got to take. But
I'll run that risk every time over Draymond Green, Andre Iguodala, and Otto Porter playing hot potato on the perimeter. Like, hard pass on that. Not to disparage Otto Porter, he was great last night, but
and not to disparage Klay Thompson at all either. But are you just kind of hoping for like one of those breakout nights that he had? What was it, Game 5 last series? I don't think it was Game 6, but just one of those explosive nights from him, knowing you might not get a ton in the other games.
Yeah, basically. It's just like, hey, can you hit 7 or 8 threes tonight? His inability to create off the dribble, it's always been a problem, but especially now. That's a huge issue.
But why is he being asked to do that now then?
Because Boston's forcing the Warriors to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's ball denial for Steph, and so it's the Clay and Draymond two-man game, and then Draymond gets out of the way. It's not great.
That's a tough world to live in.
Yeah. They one of the encouraging signs I would think, at least for me, is they got a good game from Andrew Wiggins. He looked like he was ready to go. And I do believe Jordan Poole, maybe it's one of those things where Jordan Poole, first time under them lights, it was a different vibe. He just didn't play well, whatever the case may be. I think he bounces back. I don't know if he plays like he did in the Denver series or at the end of the regular season. I don't know if he gets back to that in this series, but I do think he plays better. He's a good ball player. The shot is pure. I think he'll find ways to get off and improve as the series goes along.
Yeah, I think so too. And it felt like last night, he's such a creative finisher around the rim. And I think he just needs to trust that and go. It was like they had a plan to not attack Robert Williams, which fine. But there were a couple times where Poole got inside last night, and then it was like he didn't know what to do once he got in the paint. And you can't have that. You just got to go up and try and finish and score. So I don't know. We'll see. It's just, it was encouraging that they got up by 15. But the fact that Boston just kind of locked down their offense, Boston tied it at 103 and then went on a 17-0 run. It's just
yeah.
Man, that's tough.
How many times last night were you screaming, oh, we're going to lose this series? We're going to lose this. How many times did you say that phrase last night?
Oh, God.
All night?
Yeah.
Kyle, you're one of those guys.
Oh, dude. Well, so it's because I'm very intense in the moment. But once the game's over and literally clock hits 0, it's deep breath. And then I can think about it for real. But in the moment, I'm just, dude, hook me up to a microphone and I will bring every scorching hot take that you can think of.
Let him start firing off some text messages to you. That's when it gets.
Dude, I'll throw you guys in a group chat mid-game.
Please do.
Okay. All right. I got you guys.
So funny.
I just get mad. And so I just say mean things because I'm pissed.
All right. So game 2, we've talked about game 2 and what they need to do to execute. Here's the issue, the conundrum with going into game 2 is you've got a guy who has the KCC championship. He's got the belt as being that dude in the game right now, and Jason Tatum, who I think offensively this is going to be the worst he plays. Jason Tatum, I think for the rest of the series is probably going to average about 24 to 27 points a game. And if he's able to do that and still distribute the way he did, maybe not to the tune of 13 assists, but just making the right passes and trusting his teammates in the same way. I know people are like, well, Derek Smith ain't going to do that again. Well, maybe not, but he may give you 9 points. And if Tatum is now hitting 30, it all balances out. So it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of one of the things is if you before the series, if you had said Boston in 5, it would have been all right, relax. But now, based on what we saw last night, if you said that, it's it's not crazy for everything you just laid out. They scored 120 points and their best offensive player did nothing. If I just showed you before the game, if I said, hey, Jason Tatum is going to do this. This is what he did. And here's what Steph did. You're thinking the Warriors won going away. And the opposite happened. That's not great news for the Warriors. So, we'll see. They've done a great job of adjusting and bouncing back, but they don't lose a ton of game 1s. They don't lose a ton of game 1s at home, certainly. So, I don't know, man.
Who has the better role?
Series.
Sorry, Casey, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, just real quick. I was just going to ask Kyle because he's seen all the Warrior games. Is there a comparison to that Raptors team in 2019, the way they were able to defend as a team, and this Boston team? And do you think that presented problems for Golden State? In that 2019 series, and they may be faced with the same ones this one, or is there no correlation to these two teams? Because I see a little bit of just being long defensively, being able to switch a lot of different things of that nature. And I don't know if that kind of bothers what the Warriors like to do.
Yeah, I see it a little bit, but this Boston team is better, I think, defensively. Kawhi was obviously elite peak of his powers in 19, and Pascal Siakam was going to be the next Kawhi, right? But like Fred VanVleet was really good in that series. Ed Norman Powell, Marcus Gasol. That was a really good team. But I feel like this Boston team is deeper because there was never a point last night where they had a lineup on the floor that's like, oh, the Warriors need to win these minutes because this is just not a good lineup. And it felt like that a couple times against the Kyle Lowry was on, of course. Yeah, I think maybe a little bit, but Boston, I think, is a better version of that.
Who has the better set of role players in this series?
Ooh. Boston.
For
At least
sure.
based on last night. Yeah, I think so. I mean, are you taking what are we considering role players?
Well, I guess that's a great question too. At first, we were kind of like looking at the bench, and then we were kind of like, all right, let's stretch out from Steph, and then we couldn't figure out who the duo is in.
Well, okay, so I guess that's my problem. If you're taking like, okay, here's Steph and here's Jason Tatum, those are the two stars, right? And then you start going under that.
Yeah.
Like, how many Celtics are you taking before you get to Andrew Wiggins?
I feel like you're listening to
and it's Andrew Wiggins, by the way.
Like, so that's where we went. I think we went Brown, and then I think we went Marcus Smart, and then Andrew Wiggins, if I remember correctly.
We said Andrew Wiggins, but there was a discussion about Horford. I think we settled
I'm taking
on
Wiggins over Horford.
Yeah. We settled on Wiggins, but after that, you got Horford. I mean, do you put Rob Williams there? Do you put
they go like what? Like where does Jordan Poole go? Like it feels like you don't know what you're going to get from a night to night basis on Jordan Poole, and maybe some of that stuff that we saw during the regular season is great. As Mark Jones says, he put some money on tape with that season that he had. But here, if there's one thing different than playoff basketball, it's the NBA Finals. And I don't know that we're going to see that Jordan Poole we saw during the regular season at all in this series.
I don't think so. We haven't seen that Jordan Poole since the game 2 against Memphis. He has 120-point game since then. And he's been, distributing a little better, but he hasn't been shooting it great. He's had a couple of, efficient games where he goes like 7 of 10, but he hasn't had like a monster game since, like I said, I think it was game 2 against Memphis. The crazy thing is like John Morant went out and Jordan Poole had nobody to go at and started getting cooked. No, the thing that gets me with that is people going, oh, it's Jordan Poole's first finals game. It was every Celtics first finals game.
That's right.
Every single one. And they were fine. I expected Boston to come out and start really slow. They didn't. There didn't seem to be a ton of nerves. I mean, Steph goes for 21 in the first quarter against a team that's never played in the finals before. You're like, oh man, that could be a backbreaker. Like that could just be a done deal. And it didn't phase Boston at all. Ime Udoka is really good. He is a fantastic coach. Yeah, he had them ready to play. And that's, I think, really hard to do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Man,
they're a really good team.
I think we're in for still a long series. I have Boston in 6 before the series. I didn't see anything to change off that or to say, oh, now it might be 5 or something. No, it's Golden State. They are who they are for a reason. I think they'll bounce back tomorrow or Sunday, and be ready to even this thing up.
Do you want to pay tribute to Frank Gore before we're done?
Frank,
he's great, man. He's great. He was so I said this on the podcast on Candlestick Chronicles. Subscribe, rate, review.
Okay, stop right there just for 1 second. What are you wearing? What are you wearing?
Jersey. There's a discussion.
It's a Steve Kerr jersey.
Oh, it is Kerr. There's a lot of discussion in the chat about
he's wearing. Dude is wearing a Steve Kerr Arizona jersey.
Yeah,
sick as hell.
Yeah, that's fine.
I get so many compliments on this.
It's fantastic. Like I was like, what Warrior throwback is that? Like, and then you backed up and I saw the Arizona and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. What are you? That's
very nice. It's fine. When you make a bucket, they go Steve Kerr, and then the crowd will go Steve Kerr.
If the only cooler Arizona jersey to own than this one is Kenny Lofton. That's a fact.
Oh yeah.
That'd be
They
so
made the
sick. If I
tournament.
had a Kenny Lofton Arizona jersey, I'd never take it off.
Didn't they make the tournament together? They played in the backcourt. They were a tournament team. Yeah,
that sounds right.
But now there's like 10 Kenny Loftons in the sports.
There really is. None of them look alike either.
Kenny Loftons everywhere.
Well, there's only one true Kenny Lofton.
True. True.
Very underrated player.
I interrupted you. You were gonna sing the praise of Frank Gore.
No, Frank Gore. He was the coolest part about being a 49ers fan from like 2005 until the Jim Harbaugh years. And then Jim Harbaugh comes along, and now not only are the 49ers good, but their offense centers around Frank Gore. And you just can't tell the story of the 49ers through the mid 2000s and through the early 2010s without starting with number 21. And I don't know, there will probably be like better, like, you know, just like production wise, better players in my lifetime. But I don't know if there will ever be a player that just like oozes 49er more than Frank Gore. His 11,073 rushing yards are a franchise record that I doubt will ever be broken, just with the nature of football now. And just like you think about 11,000 rushing yards with one team, that means you have a running back on one team for like, that's 1,100 yards a year for 10 years. And that's just really hard to do now. So
running backs aren't on teams that long anymore.
Right. They're barely in the league that long, much less on one team, much less being that productive. I mean, 16,000 rushing yards on the dot over 16 years. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Whether he goes on first ballot or not, I don't know. I mean, the voting process is weird, but it's really dumb. He'll go into Canton one day though, and it's going to be great because he'll have earned the hell out of it. So shout out to Frank Gore.
We love 2-1. We love 2-1. Real quick before we leave, Kyle, I want to ask you something. I want to read you some numbers, and I want you to tell me where the 49ers season ends if these numbers come to fruition.
Okay.
4,000 passing yards, 28 touchdown passes, 706 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, 14 interceptions from Trey Lance.
4,000 passing yards and 700 rushing yards. Oh my God.
This was a projection by the Draft Network. Just they did it for all quarterbacks. Just randomly for all quarterbacks.
It's a fantasy football thing. We have no idea how they came up with these numbers.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Bro, okay, if Trey Lance throws for 4K and runs for 7, the 49ers are winning like 13 or 14 games, and he's going to be the MVP. Like that's insane. Like I have high hopes for the kid, but good Lord, that's an outrageous.
This
projection.
is Draft Network. This wasn't like a Niners blog. This is just random NFL people. Like I said, we don't know how they got these projections, but that was his projections.
I forget the exact numbers, but Josh Allen's second year was like not great, but it wasn't horrible. It was like, oh, okay, that's if they get Josh Allen year 2 production from Trey Lance, I think that'd be a good building block. But 4,000 passing yards would be.
Let's go,
man.
Let's go.
We get an MVP performance from Kyle Madson every time he joins us. Make sure you check him out on 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, and of course on Candlestick Chronicles.